we get to begin on this 23rd of November, 2021. Hope everyone had a good sports weekend and you are trying to enjoy your Tuesday. We got a short week with Thanksgiving Eve tomorrow and then, of course, Thanksgiving on Thursday, which means you get a boatload of NFL action. And if you're an Eagles fan, you're feeling pretty good about yourselves because as soon as they start to run the football, alas, they start to win some games. Nice win at home against the Saints on Sunday for their first home win of the 2021 campaign. And ironically enough, the last time prior to Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles won at home was against the Saints last year. So they win it 40-29, and now they're in the mix. There's one team we know that's not in the mix, and that would be the New York Football Giants. And let me start with the Giants today, because this is something that I've talked about for I don't know how many years now. This is something that I pretty much have preached for God knows how long. I mean, I feel as though every single solitary season over the last 5 or 6 years, it's the same lousy freaking conversation with the Giants. Aside from 2016, let's just go through it. McAdoo and Spags, 3-13. Shermer, disaster, 5-11. Shermer, disaster, 4-12. Judge, 6-10. Judge this year, 3-7. And what do you get last night? You get, once again, a team that is just afraid to move the football. A team that I think at the end of the day, they need to get medically checked out by doctors. Because I think ultimately maybe they've got these allergies where they're not allowed to cross the opposition's goal line, where they just can't score. So in a game last night where Tampa Bay could have put up 50 last night, they decide they're only going to put up 30. And in a league where every team in the NFL on a weekly basis can easily score 28 points, this lousy freaking franchise and this offense gives you 10. They give you 10. That's the best we can do. 10. We stop. We can't do 12. We can't do 16. We can't do 21. 10 is good enough. So what do they decide to do today? They decide something I've been preaching 20 games ago. They finally fired the clapper. Jason Garrett, see ya, via con Dios, get out. We don't need you anymore. Now, you can also turn around and probably get rid of the lousy head coach, and don't forget about the GM that preached hog mollies, an offensive line that stinks, that preached a running back who was touched by the hand of God that looks like a shell of himself. A GM that said, you know what? Our quarterback has all the tools. He's big. He's athletic. He's got athleticism. He can scramble. His decision-making stinks. It's embarrassing. And look, ultimately, I can just sit here and just laugh because I'm at the point where you get numb to it because they're so embarrassing. But how are you not a competitive football team? How are you year in and year out? You just don't show up. You got guys on this team right now. Think about these draft picks. Will Hernandez stinks. Nate Soldier should have stayed retired. Kenny Golladay, I'm paying you what, 70-something on million to disappear and not block when you're supposed to block on a running play when you get downfield? You don't want to go across the middle, it seems. How many touchdowns do you have this year? How many? Let's do the math. Let's count them up by this outstanding wide receiver group, shall we? Kenny Golladay, 7 games played, 20 receptions, 34 targets, 322 yards. I have as many touchdown catches as Kenny Golladay does this year. 0. Tony, we don't want to give him the football even though he's the best playmaker on the field. How many touchdown catches? 0. Shepard, who can't stay healthy, 1. Ingram, who should have been traded last year, 2. Slayton is a bust. Ross gives you speed. Other than that, well, what do you got? All I hear week in and week out, well, this is it. Daniel Jones finally has his weapons, and this is what you muster offensively. This is what you put out there. 10 lousy points. And your trickery, your play was a luck dragon play by Daniel Jones to the tackle, Andrew Thomas. That's all that was. And it probably had the makings of a Freddie Kitchens play. Just like the game against the Raiders when they ran the football. That wasn't Garrett. The Garrett experiment stunk. The Garrett experiment blew up in their face. Why? Because the Giants have a major problem. They are loyal to a fault. And it's like a business. You can't run a business like that. You can't. You can look at last night. A perfect example. Second quarter, the Giants are down 10-3. 10-3. And Garrett called a play that appeared to have no chance from the second the ball was snapped. You got Daniel Jones lining up in the shotgun, took the snap against his zone defense. Three of the receivers converge in the middle of the field, all in the same spot. It's like when you're playing with your little cousins or your nephews or your little brothers and you tell everyone to just go and run to the mailbox. All five of them go. And they cut at the same time. All in the same spot. They nearly tackled each other. So the quarterback's got nowhere to go with the ball. I mean, it's just embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing. Wait, how about the offensive line? Who Tampa was able to get to Jones on a play that was blown up by Sue when they rushed 3. There's no place for the quarterback to make the play. And I'll say this. I've never jumped on the Daniel Jones bandwagon. Never did. I think Daniel Jones could have played in the league a little bit. I think Daniel Jones needs an offensive line. I totally agree. Daniel Jones has the tools. But there's something between the ears that he's never going to get. And you can't coach that. It's innate. You either have it or you don't. He doesn't have it. He just doesn't. He just doesn't have it. He doesn't have that it. You can't have Daniel Jones carry a team, man. This guy's making horrible decisions. Do you know how many turnovers he's had in his career? It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. This guy is a turnover machine. You're not going to win in the NFL like that. And not all of it is on Daniel Jones. But my God, last night, where the hell you throwing that football? Seriously, where's your head at? What's with your decision making? It's embarrassing to watch. How do you go from year number 1 to throw for over 3,000 yards and 24 touchdowns? By the way, in 12 games, you follow that up in 14 by throwing less yards and half the amount of touchdowns. You follow that up in 10 games this year by throwing just 9 touchdown passes and 2,200 yards. Folks, rip the Band-Aid off. He's not the answer. The GM needs to go. The GM needs to go, and it's all because a couple years ago, they were too loyal. Look, they thought they can get 1 or 2 more years out of Eli Manning. That's what they thought. And it didn't. They wasted a lot of his prime. That 11-5 season, Eli didn't play poorly. He didn't play poorly, but it was the defense. But they oversold you on this bill of goods. The defense took a step back. The offensive line was horrible. And this is what you get. The last several years, what was he, 8-23? And the 4 games he started in 2019, you shouldn't even brought him back. But you're loyal to a fault, and you can't run a business. You can't run a professional sports league like that. You can't. It doesn't work like that. You have to ultimately decide fish or cut bait, and they're going to have to do it again. They're going to have to do it again now with this quarterback because, folks, he is not the answer. He's not. You have to clean house. That means you get a new GM that hires a new head coach. And you probably got to turn the roster over 95% of the time, 95% in the next 2 to 3 years. As a fan, Do I want to deal with that as a fan? Can I stomach that? No, I can't. But Mara is so loyal. They live in the Stone Age with their thinking. They don't want to think outside the box. So now you just want to throw these retreads? It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing to watch. They're not. They are not an NFL franchise. They are not. They are not a professional football team. They're not. They're a bunch of clownish players that can't make plays, led by a clownish head coach and an even more clownish, clueless GM. And you knew Garrett had to go because Joe Judge was so aggravated, and rightfully so. Someone's head has to roll. But it's simple fundamental footballs, too, that this team doesn't even know how to do. Which is embarrassing. I cannot stomach it. I can't. I cannot watch it. It's so bad. It's embarrassing to, I don't even laugh anymore. There's no joy in watching this team. There's none. There's zero joy. There hasn't been joy in the last several years. That's how bad it's been. Oh, this is the year, the offseason. They spent all the money. They fixed those hog mollies. They got some playmakers. They got Saquon, who's touched by the hand of God, says Gettleman. You know, Joe Judge, he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's no-nonsense, Joe Judge. This is who he is. That's a disciplinarian. This is what we need. Really? 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 A bunch of clowns, man. They're a bunch of clowns. And they think the fan base are a bunch of idiots, and they're not. They're a smart fan base. You watched that game last night. You can figure it out. I mean, Blaine Gabbert, they took Brady out of the game with 7 minutes to go. It was almost like a mercy killing. I'm watching the game thing, and it can't get any worse. And now you got to worry about the Philadelphia Eagles, who might spank you. Who might flat out spank you come Sunday. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Have fun now at home when that stadium that should hold about what? I don't know how many hundreds of thousand or whatever the number is overrun by Eagles fans. Have fun with that Sunday at 1 o'clock, because I'll tell you right now, I won't be watching that garbage. Nope. Not at all. It's a joke how bad this team is. They're an embarrassment, and it starts from the top. And unless they look in the mirror and decide it's not working, we've got to change it, you're going to get 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 more years of horrible football in New York if you're a Giant fan. So get used to 3-14. Get used to 4-13. Have at it. Have fun. Because I'll tell you one thing, too. By the time October runs around, if you're married with kids, you got the whole lousy fall to spend time with the kids and the spouse, because you're not even going to maybe invest it in Giant football. That's how bad it is. Their season ends before it even starts. Embarrassing. All right, 20 past the 4 o'clock hour. Johnny Mack on the other side. We'll talk some Eagles with him. I'll get his thoughts on the state of the New York Football Giants. And I'm going to tell you why I'm more aggravated. I'm more aggravated because I was staring down the barrel of another 5-0 weekend, and I got screwed because the referees stink in the NFL. So all of a sudden, boom, we come back to reality at 3-2. So we got a lot of stuff going on right now. There's a little bit of aggravation that we're stewing, some venom. So we'll talk to Johnny Mack, football in the 20s. Lloyd Vance in the 5 o'clock hour. Hot Stove Baseball news and notes as well, and we'll get into some NBA plays. Keep it locked in. A Tuesday edition of BYP coming at you right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.